Welcome to another episode of Religiously Incorrect, brought to you today by our sponsor, Phillips Care Training.
We're so fancy.
Phillips Care Training. The new owners of High Street Fitness, 2277 High Street in Cortland, Ohio. Go there and get what body they trying to get today? It's football season. Get your football body right.
Get your football body right.
Your cheerleading body.
Get your beer belly body right. You're ready to be in the stadium.
Get ready. Phillips Care, they will get you right.
Absolutely.
He is one great guy out of Pitt. He is just a phenomenal athlete, and he will kill you, but he will get you right.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to die.
You definitely going to die.
But you'll be fitting that casket, though.
I've been there.
You get that slim fit casket. Just telling you want the slim fit.
Woo, yes, sir. Yes,
Lord.
Sir.
You know, they have all them heavy duty extra wide caskets. Obviously, it still has a slim fit for his little brothers.
One anyway.
That's what I'm saying. Why should I pay for all that material if I'm not going to use it? Besides, if I'm in a real casket, then they be jostling me around. And speaking of which, before you get to what you're going to talk about, you know, we got the steepest steps in Warren. And we have this never mind.
What are you talking about?
Let's just say that by the time the people get out to church,
they be tired.
No, the deceased.
Oh Lord! Oh yeah! Oh, they
don't look.
Oh, that's us too.
Go ahead. Just whatever you're going to talk about, Jeff. You might have to edit this out.
No, we ain't editing. I was just thinking about you sitting in the casket like this. It's real. Looking like that movie Thinner.
What was you supposed to talk about, Jeff?
Anyway, we let's open up the show with I was watching a YouTube video or a TikTok video, one or the other, of Bootsy. And Bootsy was saying,
Collins?
Bootsy Collins, yeah. He was saying that he feels that the R. Kelly verdict was excessive. He feels that 30 years was too long. Let me tell you why he premised it.
Come on, premise it.
Let me give you his premise. He premised it because Elvis Presley married a 14-year-old girl.
Correct.
Woody Allen married his little niece or whatever.
Yeah, stepdaughter.
And none of them got in trouble like this. He said there are been people who have murdered people and have not gotten 30 years. Do you feel that this was too excessive? Do you feel that maybe some of the weight or some of the onus should have been on the parents? Some of it should have been on the producers. You know, one of the mothers was literally,
grooming the child and
grooming the child.
Saying,
that's gonna be my son-in-law.
Yeah.
So, do you think 30 years was a lot for somebody such an iconic superstar?
Okay. We only have a few minutes to touch on this. So I'm going to make my opinion plain and simple. What R. Kelly did was wrong.
Absolutely.
What Elvis Presley did was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
What Woody Allen did was wrong. What Harvey Weinstein did was wrong. Everybody was wrong. Mm-hmm. Everybody's wrong. It's not the judges and everybody else's fault that Elvis Presley did this in the 60s and the 70s or whatever. And R. Kelly picked his season and time of doing this. There's always an example made, the Bill Cosby situation. We can play this, icon. First of all, I don't care what you are. We have to kill that one.
Absolutely.
I don't care what you are, priest, movie star, pastor, neighborhood hero, doesn't matter. Secondly, I don't care if somebody's mother literally throws their naked daughter at me. I'm still a grown man.
Absolutely.
I'm still a grown man.
Facts.
And he is using his power, prestige, and money, to groom and do horrific things. And the sad thing, and I don't mean to say that there's a degree to this, but he didn't just, date underage or go after younger girls. He didn't just try to. He was literally doing the most demeaning, disgusting thing you could possibly do to multiple dozens of young women.
Now, once again, please, I am in total agreement with Pastor Todd, but I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm playing Bootsy's advocate. His thing was nobody Bootsy's advocate. His thing was nobody made them stay. He would leave for 3 weeks at a time And when he came back, they were still there. So his thing was nobody chained him up. Nobody made him stay. They could have left, but they stayed on purpose. So obviously,
okay, can we start by distrusting Bootsy Collins as an authority on this subject? Can we start there by not trusting? Because I'm not saying that he has dirt, but I'm saying he comes from an era where there's probably a lot more permissive behavior, and people like that obviously are going to feel that way. And I'm not disagreeing with that, and I have a problem. I was just reading an article last night. It was on slate.com about like 56 stories of sexual harassment or inappropriate sexual. And it's like people who didn't know it was wrong or they realized it was wrong later. Some of this does feel like a sensitivity after the fact, like extra, beyond. But at the same time, again, the days and times in which we're living, sometimes people just get caught up. I get the argument of murderers don't get that kind of time. I get that, but it appears to me that there were a multitude of victims, and
right.
And this wasn't just one murder or whatever, or one person. It was a multitude of victims, a long ecosystem of, and maybe those parents should be held accountable. Maybe the people who helped enable him and his behavior, agents, managers. Heck, you have people talking about R. Kelly's a Christian now and pastors and people.
Oh, absolutely.
You can't tell me some of them didn't know some of this dirt or didn't hear rumors. So there's accountability. I do agree with the idea that there's accountability to go around. That does not take away the accountability of the principal player.
That's right.
That's me.
That's right.
Doesn't take away the accountability. But I mean, I get not that I don't get the argument. 30 years does seem like a lot, but it sounds like this dude's been doing this for at least 25.
Yeah.
So he's basically getting a year per year of exploitation. That's what he's serving. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. And that's what I'm trying to say. And I mean, Big Mike just said he was peeing. I'm literally saying he didn't just marry young, which we already know he did.
Well, I mean, the one thing I didn't know that the media is saying that it wasn't just women, it was also some young boys.
Yeah, young boys.
That I didn't know, and that was a twist for me.
But to me, that goes back to what we've talked about before, Pastor Jeff, and that is the hero worshiping we do in all facets, entertainment, the church, everywhere. I don't want people to hero worship me to the point that I feel emboldened to do that type of debauched behavior without any sense of that there's going to be repercussions for this.
Absolutely.
And I don't care if you're a pastor, a movie star, whatever, that the ecosystem that surrounds it, I don't believe you should dog out people. I don't believe in this tear down culture where every time somebody gets famous something, you have to find a way to tear them down. But I also don't believe in this hero worshiping mentality. And again, that's on the person or people who love the person to try to balance and measure that out.
Well, what got me about this whole thing is, obviously I read the article, and for me, I love to go to the comments because the comment section is really gets you.
They're out of control, man.
The comment section
is out of control.
I mean, the internet is undefeated.
The internet is undefeated.
It's undefeated. But there was at least 90% of the comments in favor or who agreed with Bootsy. And I'm just like, we live in a world now where we can justify almost any act and anything.
Can I add one more piece to what you just said about the 90%? Sir. It was probably out of that 90%, it was probably also 90% Black. And there is a cultural disease that we have called Black protectionism.
Yeah.
Where because so much has been done to us.
Especially when you add the fact that they threw in Woody Allen done it.
Correct.
And,
there's the racial
white people can get away with it.
White people can get away with it. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's why we were literally shouting in church when OJ was. Because we were just that. But to me, we could go deep into that. That is
the juice
depth.
Is loose.
Listen, right. But that's the depth of the brokenness of the Black psyche, is that you would celebrate the freedom of a likely guilty person and or defend the innocence of a likely guilty person just because of all the trauma that is ingrained and subconsciously a part of our story. We just want to see one of ours win.
Right.
And like you said, the equality thing. And I'm sorry to my brothers, Black brothers and sisters, Bill Cosby, who I was never a huge R. Kelly fan, but Bill Cosby, R. Kelly, Michael Jackson, whatever, I'm still a fan, but I'm not going to die on the hill of defending them because of their race.
Right.
Sorry, Black people.
Wrong is wrong.
That is not our been to the mountaintop speech. I've been to R. Kelly's bedroom. I'm just saying that's not the place to plant our justice flag.
Hey,
not with
I am in no way a Muslim, but I respected what is his name? Farrakhan, when he said, yes, I'm telling you you're wrong. I tell my mama she was wrong.
Tell your mama, that's right.
If you're wrong, you're wrong.
Right.
If you're wrong, you're wrong.
Especially if you're eating pork. He's gonna tell her she's wrong.
Well, I just had some today, so
listen,
I'm just wrong.
Had some today. Man, thank y'all for tuning in. I want you to like, I want you to share, I want you to tag. We know you've been missing us. We've been off and on through the summer. We know you've been missing us. We're back to talk about conventions, conferences, convocations. But first, it's time for Meme of the Week.
Meme of the Week.
Meme of the Week. Meme of the Week.
Welcome to Religiously Incorrect, ladies and gentlemen.
Meme of the Week. Meme of the Week.
We thank you. Send us your memes of the week.
Meme of the Week. Meme of the Week.
We are. These are all jokes. We are just playing.
What do we got? Blah blah blah. Just come to church. Listen, that is going on my side
that
tomorrow.
Is the best ever.
That's going on my side tomorrow.
Yes.
Blah, blah, blah. Just come to church.
That is the meme right there. Yes,
I love it. You
found
know why that made me laugh so hard? Because the other week, just a couple days ago, 2 days ago, I was going to go out and change the church sign. And I got busy doing a project. I had not changed the church sign since last November or whatever. And I was thinking to myself, man, it's overdue. And then I'm thinking, I need to look up a phrase.
What do you say?
I need to look up that. Do I put a scripture? What do I put? And now the Lord has answered my prayers.
It's funny because
blah, blah, blah.
I'm trying to build.
That's what I would say.
Right. I'm trying to build my following on TikTok, and so you got to think of, clever cliches and fun stuff. They said you got to post at least 3 times a day to build your audience.
Is that what they say?
That's what they say.
I'm not doing enough.
It's a whole algorithm type thing, and you got to respond to everybody who comments. But the thing is, that's what you need is just blah 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 blah. Just come to church.
Just come to church.
That's it.
Listen,
y'all need Jesus.
Y'all need Jesus. That's gonna go on next week. Y'all need Jesus. Blah blah blah. Just come to. I swear you're gonna see it on the side. I'm gonna take a picture of it and put it up. No, I love that. That was a good one. Mike, you found that one?
Yeah, it was wonderful.
I'm gonna tell your mom to call you and say blah blah blah. Just come to church. All right, we want to thank our sponsors. The Phillips Care family of businesses, started with Phillips Care Cleaning Service. Don't waste your time trying to do it yourself. If it has to do with your house, your home, or even commercial buildings, Phillips Care Cleaning can take care of it. Everything from floor cleaning, deep cleaning, move in, move out. They do maintenance of all types. Anything you can think of, they can make it happen. Call Fernando at 330-219-7916. I saw this brother out on the Lord's Day, out at an apartment complex working. Man, I said, that's a brother, I guess you don't know it's a Sabbath. We'll talk about it later. Also, we want to shout out Phillips Care Lawn Services. They've been in business for over 10 years. They do it all. Cutting, trimming, leaf removal, branches, all that stuff. No man can work. Lawn care starting at $30. Look up Phillips Care LLC on Facebook or call them
ain't gonna
at
pay this electric bill.
Do not take out of your ties and get your lawn cut. All right, you take care of the Lord's lawn first.
The Lord's lawn.
The Lord's lawn. The Lord's lawn. Take care of the Lord's lawn first. All right. Fernando said, get it while you can. I thought to text it because I was riding by.
Brother.
I was like, man, sliding ties, but I don't over here.
I'm rolling with you, brother. I'm rolling with you.
We should have a new rule that if you work in the neighborhood of my church, you have to tie to my church. You have to tie. All right, man. What's tonight's subject? I keep getting them mixed up.
It's three
I
C's.
want to say it right.
It's the 3 C's.
Conferences, conventions, and convocations. Oh, my.
Oh, my.
Conferences, conventions, and convocations. Oh, my. Because summertime, Pastor Jeff, for the church, is convocation, conference, and everybody calls it something different. Mm-hmm. But it's essentially roundabout the same thing.
Absolutely.
It's a meeting of usually at least a couple days.
3 to 5 days.
3 to 5 days.
There's some type of banquet.
There's some type of banquet involved, some guest speakers.
There's some morning prayer services.
The morning prayer service, day sessions.
There's a song, usually a
guest psalmist.
Guest psalmist
for the
sing
evening.
the song of the Lord.
Some sort of sometimes concert night or musical night. You know, that it's conferences, conventions. Some of these are denominational.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we had our Baptist. Now in the Baptist world, we call it the annual session. We call it a session. That's got to be one of the most basic words I've ever heard. That kind of meeting being called. So our jurisdiction, it was basically what we call a jurisdiction, because it's funny because I learned all my terms first through Church of God in Christ through my wife. So I always say jurisdiction. So you know how I describe being a moderator? I literally describe it to my in Kojic terms. I'm like, so a moderator is like a bishop, and my district is like a jurisdiction. And like that's because that's my
Bishop
point of reference.
Johnson.
My point of reference. A moderator Johnson. And we you know, because the traditional Baptists don't believe in bishops, you know. Traditional Baptists. Now, a lot of Baptist preachers just make themselves bishops just to do it.
Oh, absolutely.
You know. But yeah, we have moderator night, president's night, bishop's night, official day, you know.
Kids night.
Official day, youth church.
Youth day. Yeah.
You always have youth church. So I guess we just want to talk about, so first of all, on the denominational thing. On the denominational tip, it's semi-required, but not really.
Right.
You're supposed to register, you know, you're supposed to register, and you can almost guarantee you're going to have, thank you, Elder Carter, Women's Day one night, and you're going to have Youth Day and some sort of men's thing, but the men are almost always the weakest. Now in the Baptist church, we have the laymen.
The layman ministry.
I love that word.
I love it.
Nobody knows what it means.
The greatest thing, and they may have the weakest ministry through the conference, but throughout the year, there seems to be the strongest.
They seem to have strong things.
They seem to have something going on every month or something, you know, something to do.
Yeah, we're Baptist Terrence. We have sessions. We have annual sessions. Now, the National Baptist Convention has an annual session. The Ohio State Baptist Convention has an annual session. Now, there are two in Ohio. Then there's Ohio Baptist General Convention, which, by the way, TJ, I will be in Columbus for the general session. Ohio Baptist General Convention, Wednesday through Friday. I'll be there with President Winston. We have presidents and moderators. That's what we have. You know,
sometimes you get the president and the moderator.
So I don't know about you guys, but like from what I understand in the Baptist context, I've been Baptist for 7 years now, pastor of the Baptist church. You're supposed to register and pay your registration. You pay registration for your church according to the size of your church. That's your registration. And you pay it for I'm in the Northern Ohio Baptist District Association. Then you pay it for the state. Then if you participate in the convention, national, you pay for the convention. Now, there's no real penalty for not registering. There's no real penalty, except you won't be listed officially on the roster, I guess, for the year. I don't know if there are other benefits you miss out on. And maybe those of you who are a part of your particular reformations, your Pentecostals, United Holy Church, Church of God in Christ, Apostolic, PAW, whatever it is there a penalty for not paying your annual assessment?
Well, the last one I was actually in. Now we are in the Northern Ohio.
You're in the
Northern Ohio Baptist, the Great Northern. But
as Morris Lee used to call it.
Before I was in the Great Northern, and we still haven't really got started in it. But before I was in the Great Northern, I was in the full gospel. Now I was in the full gospel myself. It wasn't my church wasn't in it.
Right.
And a lot of times you can do that as a pastor. You can be an individual or you can be a pastor in it. You don't have to have your whole church. If your whole church doesn't decide, because your church has to vote to be in these particular conventions or convocations.
Right.
So I would go myself. But if you didn't register, you could still come. You paid a price to still come, but you missed out on some of the sessions.
You missed out on some of the sessions.
You can come to the general. There's a general session almost every night.
Right.
That anybody can come
it's open service.
It's open service.
Well, you know, in the Baptist convention, it's about being a credentialed voting member.
Right.
Because you know we love to vote.
Absolutely.
We got some parliamentary procedures We have people waving the Constitution, and I'm gonna shout him out because I love this brother. I literally need to have lunch with him because I'm a new Baptist. I don't know what's going on, but Dr. Carl P. Small, one of our former moderators, he is like a parliamentarian par excellence. He will just jump up and be like, per section 23-2.
You always got that one. He didn't know it all.
On it.
He knows it all.
You can only serve for this. And if this person resigns, you have to do this. And he'd be making up words that I don't even know exist. That group must caucus together. And I'm like, is this like a Democratic National Convention? It's like campaign finance laws, but he's on it. And to me, I feel like that's better, as much as people might think that's tedious. Number one, it is good to have people and we hate to say this, but they have paid the cost.
Absolutely.
Because I have watched people, and I was in one particular business meeting where people who had not registered and were not on that annual roster, and they showed up to raise hell.
Absolutely.
They showed up to, I don't want this one to be, and we were looking at the books like, I'm looking at all the numbers of all these people speaking up. I'm like, 0, 0, 0, 0. I'm like, where do these people come from? But that is what happens, having that voting privilege. Pastor Bowie says when the church pays assessment, this church has unlimited delegates. You are correct in voting privilege, which means I need to go ahead and pay that registration, bring Second Baptist up on buses, stack the deck, and make myself moderator. Have a coup. Listen, I'm not doing no Baptist coup because they can't.
And Brother Small is gonna stand up. per section, because that's what happens though a lot. A lot of times we try to do stuff, and if we don't have that person, we allow stuff to go, and then that person shows up,
and you come back later. You come back later and realize there's probably stuff that shouldn't have even been done. Right. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, Mike. We're gonna have a coup at the meeting. So denominational has its place. And we're gonna talk about denominations more next week, Lord willing. We're gonna talk about denominations more next week, maybe. I might be at a concert, but we'll talk about that.
Okay.
But to me, I was raised, and sorry if anybody from my home church is watching this, but I was raised where denominations were almost painted as anywhere from unnecessary to almost evil. And I'm just saying, I don't think people realize the rhetoric they used. I don't think they realize. They might not say, I wasn't like, no, if you go back and listen to some of these sermons, denominations are the devil. They just divide the people. I had to connect with my wife and watch her talk about her experiences in Memphis, because she was raised Church of God in Christ. Go to district meetings and meet these people, and then realize there's a beauty to all these people coming together.
Absolutely.
There's a beauty to looking forward to seeing people from around the country that you only get to see once or twice a year. There's a beauty to people being united. And to me, that changed my perspective. And actually, as I got older, I was actually feeling like I missed out on something, because I never went to any type of convention or meeting until I was well into my 30s.
Wow.
And and here's the funny thing. Now I come along and I'm around a bunch of people who are just like, whatever. And I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever. When's the next session? When's breakfast?
Well,
I get a bag. Y'all give me a bag. With some mints in it.
I grew up under Pastor Harrison, and Pastor Harrison every year would take busloads of us down to Hampton. Yeah. And it was phenomenal to see, and to get to see people like my current idol, Freddie Haynes. Get to see people like Freddie Haynes, and to get to see people do stuff on a level that, we don't generally get to see on this, in this stage and place, and to get here and get to watch, things, even the way they do the offering, the way they do the prayers, the way the songstress, and
doing things with excellence.
Excellence. So I think it's phenomenal. I think in some instances we all ought to have that experience.
And what you just said about people that you look up to, or people that are normally seen as the higher figures, then what we don't look at, and again, it goes back to, and I promise you all, I'm not bashing my upbringing, but then it goes back to perceptions being blasted, because many of those high up people are among the people.
Absolutely.
You can walk down the hallway and see the bishops and the heads of these groups, the big mega church pastors, and people are just walking. And most of the time, unless they have somewhere to be, which they do, like life, have a right to be somewhere, but they're interacting, talking, stopping, taking pictures and all that. And again, once again, it busts up that perception that we're always like, well, they're too busy and they're just heroes and Hollywood people. And nobody's talking about how when I was at my last convention, Michael Irvin talking about a whole different person. Freddie, Michael Walker. But they don't talk about how the presidents sit down at your table and have lunch with you.
Right.
Or talk with you. Absolutely. Or kneel down and talk to your kids or whatever.
And some of them you don't even know. When I was at the Full Baptist the other time, I was taking pictures with J.J. Harrison. I had no idea who he was. I didn't. They was like, "You was with J.J. Harrison." I was like, "Who was he? You was in a picture with him?" Oh, that was him. I didn't know, but these guys are just so cool.
Like, I thought that was Richard Jefferson. That was a basketball player. Yeah, but that's the other part about that is the interaction with everybody. Right. When you get to these conventions, and I know there is some distinction, no doubt about it, and I'm sure they're there, and we'll talk about the negative things, and kind of turn this on its head in a minute. But the guy that comes from the church with 9 members is sitting next to a person with 9,000 members.
Absolutely,
and it really is a bringing together of people. And I think that's a beautiful thing. I really do. And I think that that's something that can make memories, that can build foundation. Like you said, you can go watch things be done well. Sometimes things aren't super great and you can find ways to improve and build on them. You know what I mean? And so I like that idea. And I think, like you said, I agree with you 100%. Everybody should have that opportunity. It would be good not to be tied or obligated, but to have the experience.
I mean, to watch 2,000, 2,500 people take communion at one time.
Man, 30,000, 40,000 at some of these conventions. I mean, you get to St. Louis with the Church of God in Christ. Yeah. Baptist conventions are fairly large. You know what I'm saying? But it doesn't matter.
I've never even been to your father in the ministry. What's his name?
Bishop Clark. Berean.
Yeah, he had up there in I guess they do it out in the woods.
Oh, the campground.
The camp.
Leave West Middlesex alone. I'm texting him right now.
I'm sorry. I'm not coming to that convention.
Hey, we got a cabin. We got a family cabin. And no, I don't want to stay there, but we got one.
I am not going to West Middlesex. I'm surprised y'all ain't got rated. Y'all whole got rated.
It's Jim Jones compound. Hey, this like an enclave in the middle of that area, and it's a beautiful campground. I heard it was beautiful. Have a tabernacle. I mean, the whole church seats like 1,000 people. I mean, this is beautiful. But yeah, I mean, that's somebody. You can go up there in August.
No, Doc, no, Bishop. But that's like asking me to go hunting.
so let's flip it a little bit and let's talk about non-denominational conventions. And you mentioned Hampton, but there's another type. So that will be convocations, annual sessions that denominations have. Right. Okay. The Baptist Church has our annual session, then our annual Christian Congress, Christian of Education Congress, which is like another session. The Church of God in Christ has Holy Convocation and they have AIM. And I'm not even Kojic, and I know it's AIM, not Ames. I know that. You going to Ames? But I know better. It's not Ames. It's Ames. Okay, Full Gospel Baptist has their summer convention. PAW has a summer convention, and then they have regional youth conventions and things like that. Let's talk about things that aren't denominational. Let's talk about specifically pastoral and preaching conventions. You have, and some of you might not know about that. There it is, Zion Hill. Thank you. Shout out Zion Hill, the Church of God, the Reverend B.H. Dow. We had the Dow cabin, the Stargell cabin, the Johnson cabin. Yes, we had cabins up in that piece.
Yes, sir.
But anyway, Bishop got listen, it's small, but that sucker's laid out.
I bet it is.
It's laid out. Bet it is. But anyway, preaching conventions. Hampton, E.K. Bailey, preachers. What was there was one out in California that WHW.
Wasn't
in
it Zeus out
California.
there? Is
No,
Zeus
that's yeah, but that was Carlton Pearson. I don't believe in hell anymore. My hero broke my heart, man. I love me some Carlton Pearson albums. He broke my heart.
That's because y'all had the same hairstyles.
We had the same shag. Carlton and I had the same shag. Okay. What do you think about preaching conventions? I mean, these are how to preach. Premier preachers are often
Absolutely
put on display.
Oh, you got what's his name down in Columbus? He always has his too. The white guy,
Rob Parsley. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You have. I feel bad that I'm missing a few of them. What's the one? IC3. What's the one that Bishop Jakes does for leaders? He does the leadership ICL or ILC.
Woman Thou Art Loosed.
Yeah, he has a leadership conference. So there's a bunch of them, but they're primarily for preachers and pastors.
Right.
So to me, sometimes that can be and I think all conventions are, but preachers in particular, because there's something about getting all leaders together.
Absolutely.
And after a while, it can get a little cartoonish. They can get a little cartoonish.
Oh, yeah.
Because we know people can preach.
Absolutely.
We know they can rip a text apart. And after a while, it's kind of sort of like showing off for each other.
Oh, it definitely is. And the bad thing is, having that one who is on level 10, and then you go to the next session and you got one on 2.5. And, right. So it goes up and down, and you have your flows and ebbs in there. But, I think still it's a great tool.
I said something on Twitter the other day, speaking of preaching conventions, and this comes up a lot. There is a phrase that I've come to kind of despise. I love it because it's comedic, but I hate it because I think it makes preaching look cartoonish. And that is the phrase, and it always comes from other preachers. Mm-hmm. Watch your tone, Reverend.
Yeah.
What? And it's always at the time where the inflection of the preacher changes, and he is getting ready to go from normal speaking everyday voice to hemming and hawing and heaving and huffing. And it's funny because in a way, to me, there's a part of me that's somewhat like, I don't know. There's another part of me that's like, hey, this is a discipline that pastors not only practice, but enjoy and take to heart. And just like a musician can be a true, genuine worshiper but if he wants to put some flair,
absolutely, and
he wants to put some, some razzle dazzle on that, then there's nothing wrong with, as a musician, enjoying, giving that extra. And I feel like preaching, especially in the Black tradition and the Pentecostal tradition, and just that fervor that comes unique to us, to me, there's nothing wrong with having that extra level of enjoyment. Mm-hmm. And we have to remember that often these are spaces that really are for us. Nobody's really tuning in and watching us but us. Ain't nobody watching Hampton Ministers Conference except for folk that really like good preaching. Right. Ain't nobody watching E.K. Bailey down in Texas except for preachers that really want to be. So it's not like we're not, unless something goes viral.
Oh, and some always does.
And they do. And yes, thank you, Sister Janet. And conventions can become competitive.
Absolutely.
And now if this guy switched 3 keys when he hooped, this guy's got to switch 5 keys when he hooped. If this guy took off his jacket, he's got to take off his jacket and his vest. And sometimes, it's got to get, but there it is, Pastor Bowie, the celebration cadence. And it's real. It's real. When you get there, nobody's mad at the singer for hitting a high note. Right. Nobody's mad at the organist for running them runs with his finger. Don't be mad at the preacher just because you ain't got no tune. Just because you ain't got, listen. And some of that is haterade. Oh, yeah. Oh, some of that is haterade. Mm-hmm. Because there are people among us who just have a genuine gift, a genuine flow. And we come in all shapes and sizes. And there are some funny videos. Like the dude that sound like a car that won't start, and he be like, but we love it. Leroy Elliott, Pastor Leroy Elliott, and you get some of those. But honestly, to me, it not only builds us up in knowledge, because real knowledge is passed on. Absolutely, real knowledge about right textual preaching, that, by the way, what's worse, Pastor Jeff, than going to a conference, getting an understanding that is accurate and correct about scripture, and coming home, not only do you feel corrected from the sermons you preached on it, because now you realize you didn't preach at least 8 times on a text wrong. Then you come home and try to preach it right, and nobody wants to hear it. Nobody wants to hear it.
But that is the great thing about conferences and going to hear people like that, because it actually gives you a aim, or it gives you
something to aspire to, a bar to aspire to. Yeah.
And I can remember the first time I went to Hampton, and I said, one day I'm gonna be up. You have that angst, that thing that one day I ain't made it yet.
But when you even get those chances, those calls, Bishop Paramore calls on you, Bishop Clark calls on you, feel not just a sense of like pride or ego, and I think people get it all wrong. You feel humbled, you feel intimidated.
Oh yeah.
And let's not kid ourselves. And you want to bring your best stuff.
You want to bring you got to bring your best.
This is not a Sunday night sermon. This is not
something you make up. You go back to that horse you've ridden about 3 times.
That's right.
You tell your folk, when y'all come down, I'm gonna preach.
I'm gonna preach what you heard.
I'm gonna preach what you heard.
You gonna hear this. And you try to say amen like you never heard it before.
Hey, you want to get to that joint where you ain't got no notes.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. You know it
down, and you kill it.
But not only, thank you, do you get educated, but people forget that preaching is a high pressure occupation. And let's be real, from social pressures to demonic attack. So like any other occupation where they say, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. When you see the church enjoying itself, when you see preachers encouraging each other, when you see us pushing each other, you got to remember, this is halfway mental health. And
please, wait. Can I just put this here? And when we say encouraging each other, we're not talking about the buffoonery. Oh, wow. Yeah. Come on. No. Listen, sometimes if y'all just shut up. Don't
listen. I know a couple that don't take it seriously.
Yeah.
Like they're and honestly, they don't take a lot of stuff seriously.
Right.
But the feeling of doing what you love.
And please don't get it twisted. Because I've watched, and if you have internet, you can too. You can watch some of these best preachers, and you watch all their videos, you will hear repeats.
Start hearing repeats.
You will hear repeats. They go from state to state, from conference to conference.
By the way, this is not the subject, but that's how I know people who hero worship some of these folk aren't really listening, because if you were actually listening to the content of what they were saying, you would have been tired of them by now if you love them as much as you say you do, to be honest. But back to what I'm saying, to do what you love.
Oh, that's good.
To do what you love. I want to get to that in a second. To do what God has placed in you. And a phrase that I've started to say frequently in church is, by the time I get to the end, 30, 35 minutes, whatever I'm preaching, I feel like God has given me something to say. And I realize that I have somehow successfully, even if I've stumbled, made my way to the end of this message that God wanted me to get out, in spite of my own personal frailties, that my propensity to forget what you know what I mean? You know how you miss a note, I have a stutter, lots of things. I'm ready to shout just because I made it to the end.
Come on, sir.
I'm encouraged by what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
And then when you get in a convention setting or a guest preacher setting or preacher, and you have your brothers, and for us who are slightly younger, almost always older brothers, encouraging us, the people who pour into our lives, proud of us, like our own natural fathers. We have spiritual fathers. We have people might even not know us as well, but appreciate our gifts and want good for us. They're like, we watch our kids. Look at them go. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm watching my little boy run first. Look at him go. That's how some of those older ones are looking at us. Like, look at him go. Like, oh man, that's all right. If you know what that does for a pastor's mental, for a spiritual uplift, it goes right alongside with those handshakes after church, right alongside with those inboxes a week later saying, you blessed me. But to hear your peers, and sometimes, your heroes, and I mean that in a healthy way, your heroes encourage you. That's like, if you know how when a sports star comes out on the football field and all them kids like start overdoing it and trying to throw the ball 70 yards, that's what preachers do. You want to do your best. And so I really love that feeling, but I do want to talk about that hero mentality. And
before you get there, and not only from our heroes and our peers, but just from the church itself.
Yes.
Just the church giving you an amen or an I agree, or, clapping their hands, or after it's over, like you said, getting those text messages. Those we are appreciative of that.
Man, it means so much.
We are appreciative, and it makes us, and if you're not doing it, it can make that half an hour sermon feel like it's an hour and a half, hour, 15 minutes, and you just want to quit and stop.
And yes, we do need that amen.
We do.
I'm not about to do one of them, y'all gonna be quiet on, you know what I mean? Like that bit, or people who I don't need no amens. Negro, give me an amen. I need it. But I'm not about to be one of the bitter preachers.
We don't want to say the whole time, y'all ain't hearing me.
But y'all ain't hearing me.
Let me go over here to this side. This side ain't listening.
We don't want to hear you. We don't want to hear. Janet made a great point. Some do come to see their idols and not hear from the Lord. Now, that is true. And just like worship concerts, we usually have Maverick City and Kirk Franklin and Pittsburgh and other places. I am careful to run a distinction. Number one, for all of us, it is a special time. We did go and pay to come to a convention.
Absolutely.
I'm not about to pay to stay in a hotel, come to a convention, go to church, and not enjoy myself.
Come on.
I am not about to hear somebody that I've only ever seen on TV or YouTube and never met, and finally get a chance to hear them in person and not be a little bit more in tune, because we are. Everybody is. And by the way, y'all would too.
Absolutely.
And we always make that joke. The bitter preacher joke is Jamal Bryant or TD Jakes could come to our church and preach the exact same sermon at night that we preached in the morning, and y'all be jumping out of windows, throwing views.
Going crazy.
Take all my money. Take all of it. But there are people, and to be honest, I think it's lay members more than leaders who tend to chase idols and run to do ridiculous things. And we've seen the videos and some of that. And I'll be honest, there are times when I have looked at like the Women Now Are Loose conventions, the Azusa conventions, the stadiums filled with people. It would make you think that the whole world would be saved by now if all that preaching was sticking.
My God.
It would make you think that the whole world would be saved if all that good preaching, life-changing. And I'm sure that there are a lot of people who can say, I went to Women Now Are Loose. I went to No More Sheets. I went to Get Out My Drawers. I went to whatever the next conference is.
Get out my sheets.
I went and it did change my life. It was a turning point. But let's be clear. There are too many people who equate the voice of fame with the voice of God. Mm. And by the way, your favorite, most prominent, popular mega church preacher has off nights too.
Absolutely. Some of them be at the conferences.
I've been there. I watched one who will go unnamed. And it's
until after the service.
Still on video. Yeah, I'll talk about it after we go off. But he preached after a tragedy in his life. And he did one of those, I was going to cancel, but I came anyway. He should have canceled. Mm-hmm. He should have canceled.
Absolutely.
Because, and maybe looking back, I don't know if that individual knows that he was fairly young. He's probably younger than me at the time. But maybe he would realize that later on. I know there's times when I've been in that spot, like I probably should have, or we pulled one of these. The Lord just changed my message.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And listen, if you're able to,
if you can,
don't just don't do it. If you don't feel up to it, you just had a tragedy, something's going on with your marriage and your life.
Thank you.
It's okay to call your assistant pastor or one of your ministers and say, you got this today.
Not if it's a $5,000 check, it ain't.
Well. Well, then you get up there and just
Brother
blow
gotta
it.
Eat. Yeah.
But here's another thing, Todd. Can we talk about this just for a second?
Let's go.
Listen, sometimes these conferences are expensive.
They
can be pricey. But listen, I'm not paying the same thing for Azusa as I'm going to pay for a 3rd Street. And I don't care what you put on your conference, on your flyer, that if y'all can pay for it, for them, y'all can pay. No, I'm not. I can't. I can't because y'all selling fried chicken after it's over.
They are a proven product. First of all, they are a proven product, and if you want to call it that. And your marketing needs to match your actual ministry.
Come on, sir.
Because you can have a TD Jakes quality flyer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. With a Deacon Do Wrong ministry. And when I show up, you disappoint the people.
Y'all ain't even got a musician. I'm not going. I'm not coming. I'm sorry.
And that's what we need to talk to. Everybody thinking that the way to gain prominence is to create some sort of convention.
Right.
Or and then coming up with new names.
Right.
It used to be a revival.
The brook is flowing.
The flow. Come to the flow. The river. The gate. Yeah, I mean,
destiny awaits you.
Destiny awaits you. Dive into the deep. And you got your 4-year-old out there doing praise and worship.
We're about to get all kinds of letters, Mike. We're about to get all kinds.
You got your 4-year-old doing praise and worship with a 6-year-old waving a flag over there to a track that's about to get muted on Facebook because you didn't have the copyright to it. Like, this is not.
Stop. TJ, would you stop him? Stop your boy.
Y'all come on out the back. Y'all come on out the back. Then you got to get up. Then you have these. Okay, let's talk about the bad side. We're talking about the low quality conventions.
Uh-huh.
Then you have to have an MC that's always doing entirely too much. They're trying to exhort people to death.
I know my job is to.
I know my job.
I know they asked me to, but
we got to open up the service for 19 minutes of someone just screaming, create an atmosphere. Listen, again. If you're having some conferences of the super worshipers, I rebuke that devil. Heaven is my goal. Heaven is my goal. And there won't be no conferences there either. And I won't have to pay a fee. No, but these low quality conventions, you can tell the difference. Nothing wrong with having an intercession, a prayer, nothing like that. But I'm of the mindset, if this is a gathering of the super worshipers, why is it taking 30 minutes to lather up some kind of worship? Because can we be honest? The drummer's late.
Well, he just came from the other revival down the street. And that's what else. Stop calling it a convention or a conference. Just call it a one-day revival.
Old-time revival.
A street revival, whatever you want to call it. Just keep it real.
Yeah, I mean, and the promoting that we do and the pushing that we do. And I know I'm not a big name, but I've got a word or this or that, and it does become the offerings. Oh. The offerings. 3, 4, 5 offerings in a night. Running up. You know a trend I'm glad is almost dead?
What's that?
Especially conferences. Running up to the stage and slapping money down on the pulpit. It's not gone, but it's almost
dead. Yeah, I haven't seen it in a while. I haven't seen it. One of the things I did like about...
And you know why I'm glad it's almost dead? Because nobody ever did it to me.
You was about 5 years.
I was 5
years too late for that one.
I didn't hit
about 5 years too late.
I wasn't there yet. But
listen, I'm gonna tell you, I was at a conference. I'm gonna say no name, no bear, no blame. So I was at a conference where a lady pastor said, "If y'all love y'all pastor, if y'all really love y'all pastor, I need y'all to run up here and throw money right now." And I mean, it was packed. It was packed. I mean, everybody was throwing money. Now, I was a minister in training at this time, so I was one of the persons to collect the money. And we went back to the back. This is exactly what's her words. I need half of that.
I believe
need half of that.
And by the way, if you don't think that some of these offerings are not based on, they have already counted the numbers on what this convention is costing them, what this revival is costing them, trust me, they're coming back. And I will tell you that when I have reached out to certain artists and gospel preachers and singers, one of their questions are, do you need me to raise you an offering?
Absolutely. And it's crazy.
It'll work.
They can get it.
It'll work.
They get it. Yeah, they get it somehow because of their name.
I told one guy no, knowing full well after people had paid $30 tickets or whatever, he easily could have raised another $5,000 to $10,000 that night. Easily. But that's not the culture of our church.
Right.
It's really not my culture. I can't say it would never happen in anything I do, so don't hold me to it. But I'm just saying, like, I just knew that to me that wouldn't be. But there is a meeting of expenses. And by the way, to all the people who plan conventions and revivals, it's not the people's fault you got in over your head.
Right.
It's not the people's fault. You promised all these musical groups honorariums. You went out and got the best musicians your region has to offer with no plan to pay them. Some of you go out and rent equipment and get stuff that the church normally wouldn't have, or the venue wouldn't have, or you rent hotels, and then you want to burden the people with this dream that ran out of control and got off the rails. And that's why, honestly, and I'm going to paint myself as one of the honest guy. I'm the honest guy, or I call myself one of those middle of the road people that can kind of sort of afford to stretch and get these people. But some of these major players, gospel artists and preachers, have their guard up, because if you don't think some of these folk have been burned,
oh my God,
on bounce checks, promises, hotel accommodations.
We had Red Hands here talking about they got burnt. We had a couple artists
stories
talking about how they got burnt.
I give a huge shout out, and I will shout out Rose, our treasurer, and the Second Baptist Church. We've done a phenomenal job of doing like concerts, and it's mostly concerts. And the number one thing I hear from those artists, I've worked with Israel, I've worked with Bashan Mitchell, I've worked with we've hosted them. We hosted them, and is how we stand out from churches our size,
right?
Our size, because they are used to literally chasing folk for what was already agreed to. And again, this is people's time. This is people's gifting and talent. You're asking them to travel across the country. If they're preaching during the week, they got to get back home to their church. There's a lot. They have staff. If they're a little higher in the world, they got staff to pay it. So it comes with the real. Are some people out of control? Yes.
And that's why they have these things called riders, though. Right?
Have riders. Yeah. But man, I mean, people put on like they have it and will use names. And I'm not there yet, but I've got colleagues like Bishop. I've watched people name drop to get people they otherwise wouldn't get.
Right.
And they use somebody else's name and things like that. So that can be a really dicey situation, and that puts everybody in a bad light. Then you do have diva-ish behavior.
Oh my God.
From people who, again, some of these specifications come from these guys have been picked up in a Ford Pinto before at the airport. So they have to say, I need to be picked up in an Escalade so that maybe you'll show up in a Trailblazer. You know what I'm saying? Like they're it's almost like gonna go, like they know. You have to understand how these people have been done. You got to understand that. Because and
I don't think that's bougie of them either.
I don't think, man.
I don't think it's bougie of them.
One guy told a story. I'll call him out, Elder Mark Moore, who I just love his online presence. But he talked about getting picked up in a school bus one time.
Not in a school bus.
And he walked out and said he was laughing, like, "Oh, dog, who is getting picked up in that?" And the guy was like, "Elder Moore, this for you, this for you." And then put them up in like a budget inn where like the door is on the street and the headlights are like, come on.
It's just, if you don't have the money, don't do it. I think that's Pastor Boyd said, meeting projected budgets.
Don't
at least
do it.
You should at least have the money to pay them. And hopefully you'll make a little something afterwards.
But I'll be honest, I'm glad you said that, because you have to determine whether or not that's your priority or not.
Making money, right?
You have to, and there have been times where we've had conversation and COVID interrupted some things we wanted to do. But there have been times when I said, producing this ministry in and through our church for the benefit of our church and community is worth the expense. The goal is not to make money. We've done fundraising concerts specifically for a project. I get that. But if at the end of the day, after I have done an offering, or maybe got sponsors or people who are willing to go in and partner or whatever, and I have spent several $1,000s of our church to get a once in a lifetime opportunity to receive a word, to interact with an individual who we have great respect and regard for, and who has a powerful ministry that is worthy of that attention. To me, it is a worthy investment in the people, in the ministry, and quite frankly, in that person. In that person as well. And Janet asks, how do you feel about $100 lines, $50 lines?
Well, let me tell you how, because I had a minister from one of my churches. We went to I think this was just a revival, and they had the line. Matter of fact, it was Bishop Hennings, and I know Bishop Hennings personally. Yeah. And he called for the $100 line, and she got into the $100 line. And I'm like, you ain't never gave $100 in the offering at our church, and you're a minister there. You don't. So why are you in the $100? No, it wasn't. I think this was the $1,000 line.
Don't say $1,000.
I think it was the $1,000 line.
She'd be off my board.
She got to, and she wrote a check. Wait a minute,
She wrote a check?
She wrote a check, and then she called me later on that week and said, "Can we put stop payment on the check?" No, I'm not calling Bishop Hennings to ask him to stop paying.
Wow.
You made that check. No.
Wow.
So I mean, if you can't afford to get into that line,
stay out that line.
wait to the line that they say
The $15.
everybody else.
Give what you can.
And get what that's the last call.
Whatever the Lord is speaking to you.
And if you can't give 50,
Just
the rest of y'all just come on.
Whatever y'all got. Just throw it on the ground. We've all been there. Now, I'll be honest. To me, I do still let God speak to me. I believe the $100 line phenomenon. I believe that there is a possibility, like many other things that happen in church, where there is one time where that might have been an accurate spiritual, inspiration. And everybody else was like, yo.
That looked like it worked.
Whoa, that worked. And so there have been times, and depending on the presentation, I do get a little dicey when people come up with numbers like, and now they try to be slick by making them odd numbers that mean something. Like I preached on Genesis 37. Everybody bring $37. I'm like, no, we ain't doing that. $37.52. That was my text. I there have been times where depending on the call, what I respect? I do respect transparency. If you get up and say this meeting has a budget, let's help bless to offset the expenses, I'm more likely to get up and give extra, especially if I've been blessed by the experience.
I've been there, and where they said, like you said, this meeting, we're trying to reach a budget of $1,200 to produce such and such for kids or whatever.
Absolutely.
And,
or we just want to meet the budget.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, that I'm going to give.
Say that. I will take that 1,000 times before you tell me that there's a miracle blessing awaiting me if I get $50. And because now that is a pay for play.
Your church is so different.
These aren't our churches. This isn't our church. There it is. Oh, that was Living Color, Rosalind. What you throw up in the air belongs to God. The rest of it belongs to me. I remember that sketch, Rosalind. Hey, I grew up on Living Color and wasn't even allowed to watch it. And I remember that sketch well. That was Jim Carrey and Damon Wayans. And they said, whatever goes in the hair belongs to the Lord, and the rest of it belongs to me. But let's be clear here. Things are evolving. And it might not be the offerings, and it's become a running joke. But let's remember, the vast majority of individuals do not operate that way. But
I don't think so.
It's evolved. Now the registration's a little slicker. There's merchandising, book sales.
Yes.
Everybody has a book.
Oh my God.
Half of it's blank pages.
And they open up their sermon with their book.
They have
before they preach, they got to show you all their books.
Now, don't hate if I get up there with my Life Builders Bible. If you want my Life Builders Bible study,
you better not do it.
Shamika's at the table outside right now.
What is that?
For the convention price.
What is that magazine talking about? What is that coloring book talking about? He's selling coloring books at the convention.
His son drew it. These are my drawings of church from Ethan. This is a book of the notes of other people's sermons.
You know what?
Hey, listen. And
you just got to wrap it in a different.
And it has to be normally $20.
Right.
This is
only for the convention.
But only for the convention. I want to bless the saints. And then I got to give one away.
Gotta give one away.
I got to give one away and the one I give away is the one that was in the trunk that my boy's baseball equipment has been all over. Hey, smell like funk.
Hey, Pastor Todd and myself was giving out, we was giving out stuff at the grocery store. We was giving out
gift cards.
And somebody came in. Somebody came with a book. Hey,
I don't want your book.
he's like, I'm around to the car and get it right now.
I don't want your book.
And then Todd had to buy one because I bought that car. That book been sitting in the back of my
This
car.
man made us buy a book in the grocery store. Stop making me buy your
And we're
books.
giving away money.
We're giving
for
away
people-
money.
For people
And he was like, I want to sell you my book right now.
right now.
In the produce aisle. Preacher, stop it.
Oh my
Stop
God.
it. Okay, that's the other part. Jeanette is on it. You must have been to a lot of conventions. Vendors. Do you know the things you can buy depending on the church convention? You can buy whole pulpits, robes, shirts, suits.
You know, the communion kits. They got it all. I mean, and the stylish ones, not just the,
Oh, yeah.
some of these robes be like $1,000.
Oh, man. Oh, yeah. Minimum.
Yeah,
Minimum.
I mean, they
Custom.
Killing.
Custom pulpits that they will ship to you.
Pastor Harrison got about 13,000 of them in his closet. Hey, you open up Pastor Harrison's closet, you be like, man, you could feed half of Ethiopia with your robe collection.
Mike said he'll go to the convention and selling CBD products. And,
hey, at the next convention,
hemp oils,
we selling
vape pens.
we selling DVDs of religiously incorrect.
We selling. It's not medical marijuana. It's miracle marijuana. Yeah, I mean the vendors, and again, God bless the saints. It does become. Speaking of which,
you can get yours now with a new color. You can get yours now. You really can
actually buy these. Tell the world you're religiously incorrect. Shameless plug. We are our own sponsors now. But I mean, everything from jewelry.
Yes.
To shoes, to dresses. And there were only like 2 tables at our little convention because it was a little hotel convention. But I was literally thankful because here's the bad part, especially the ladies, first ladies. There's an obligation to support people. So if you bring your wife with you, which Shamika ended up having to work, so she couldn't come up and meet me for the banquet. Right. And I was literally dreading coming up because especially if you're a first lady and just be honest, younger first ladies, they pressure you to support.
Absolutely.
Lady, don't this look beautiful? And they get like them aggressive Africans at the festivals, and they start putting the dress on you. This look good with you, and it gets overwhelming. But they want you to support, but it does get off the rails, which I've heard announcements in conventions. Saints, we need you to leave the vendor space and come to church.
Right.
Because you're spending all your time over there and that.
Well, and I think Minister Casey says she doesn't understand, but a lot of times these vendors actually offset the cost.
Well, they pay
because they pay for that space.
Pay for that space,
and
but should they? I mean, does that meet the definition of the money changers? I mean, do you equate that?
It can. It definitely can. You can make a case for it.
I think the only distinction is that was like a common space of prayer, and most of your conventions are particular.
Well, I think
off the street ain't coming up in there.
But I think if you're going to do it, I think it should be shut down during
any worship services.
Any worship service.
I agree.
If you want to come in early and get it, or after the service is over, you have so long to stay. But during the worship service, you shouldn't be able to just go out and because worship is going on, ain't no preaching going on, and just you going shopping now like it's at the Eastwood Mall.
Exactly. And Jeff, you need to shut down your Trojan condom stand at the conventions.
Hey, if I had a Trojan condom stand, I wouldn't be in the predicament I'm in now. I'm saying,
I wouldn't have this baby.
I wish I had a Trojan condom.
All right, we got to shut down, but let's be honest. We got to talk about the dark side of the conventions. And that is, for some people, it's a hookup space.
Oh, yeah.
You know, for some people.
Because a lot of folk ain't taking their wife.
They're not taking their spouse.
A lot of the wives ain't taking their husbands. And you are there for 3 to 5 days. You are in a hotel room.
Yeah.
And let's just be honest. There's a lot of hooking up.
There's some stuff that goes on.
Hooking up, going down. What's saying?
You know, now that there are people who might genuinely, legitimately, you know, take interest in someone, you know, especially younger, older, doesn't matter. So I guess in a way, it has to be legitimate. Mm-hmm. You can't be stepping out necessarily, right. But there are people who go lurking, leering at people. And, that's an unfortunate exploitation. And I think that there's exploitation that takes place, I do believe, but there's also mutual consensual bad behavior that everyone has to take responsibility for. You can't just, and we talked about this before. Let's just be clear. The big stage, the bright lights, the titles can intoxicate
Absolutely.
people.
Absolutely.
Just like in the world, just like we talked about earlier with the R. Kelly stuff, and make you excuse
basketball
behaviors.
players, football players.
Preachers.
A lot of times it's the same thing with the preachers.
Especially because they're doing something far more intimate. Especially when you talk about something that they do that is so admirable.
Absolutely.
To be honest, nobody wants to hear this, but it actually makes them sexier.
Mm-hmm.
That they're actually changing people's lives. This is a good one. This is not some tatted up, so-called dirty football player. This is a man of God. But somehow the man of God part that should come with the respect and then that person opens themselves up for it. And by the way, can we talk about this honestly, Jeff? Number one, it goes both ways.
Absolutely.
There are many female ministers now being leered at, and in some cases, male and female, using their image, using the fact that they know people are watching them and admire the fine clothes they wear and that they're perfectly, appointed and everything. And especially with the ladies, not picking on the ladies, but the prevalence of tighter clothes.
My God, help us, Lord.
Help us.
Help us, Lord.
Help.
And y'all know, come on. Y'all wouldn't even look at TD Jakes if he wasn't a preacher. Y'all
have y'all seen old pictures of my brother?
y'all would not. Now all of a sudden, TD Jakes cute.
Do y'all know West Virginia, TD? Do y'all know West Virginia, Tom? Do y'all know Tom from West Virginia? Because I knew him. I seen him before he was. But seriously, we talked about the sexualization of the ministry, that almost erotic attraction to men and women in power. And that sometimes, as Janet said earlier, is a part of the going to see my idols. It's the same as I just want to touch that performer when they're singing, or I just want to get close to a person. There is absolutely I'm not there, but even in small context, something makes you back up if you have any level of discernment from some of this encouragement and adoration and stuff like that, because you feel a connotation behind it.
Absolutely.
And it is up to you. And I always say this, Jeff, to me, I feel like at this stage in the game, enough people have screwed up.
Absolutely.
That those of us coming along should absolutely know better, and leaders should expect better, and conventions should put in protections where they can.
But I said it the other day on TikTok, and I think it bears repeating. I think many of us have gotten so enamored and so engaged and accepting engagement that we forget about appointments. So, we'll take, a lot of these people are preaching away from home several times a year.
Yeah.
I mean, several times a month. Yeah. More or less a year, Noel Jones will talk about it all the time. Right. What's his name? Jamal Harrison Bryant. Right. Because you're away from home so long.
He's a bad example. If I'm invited to preach, I don't say nothing. But
and we wonder why all these high profile preachers are getting divorced, because they're not with their wives. They're with, Bishop such and such, who you might not know her name, but she's there.
But even if it's platonic, there's just inherent danger in spending too much time away and around. Miss Charlene is on my page, but we can't put this up. But she said, it's been said more liquor is consumed during the week of convention than any other time.
Wow.
And you know what?
I believe that to be true.
I believe it to be true. And I'll be honest, more than you want to think. That's a good question. We're going to talk about that. More than you like to think, it is not just in the Baptist denomination where these vices are undertaken. Because I'm grateful that some of my Pentecostal and holiness peers are admitting more that some of this stuff goes on just as much. Obviously, because of the holiness standard and banner, they are at least more cautious and careful about it. But to be honest, I've been to some conventions where...
but you and I have talked about it. You have been in places, I've been in places, and I just couldn't, I really couldn't believe it because I really didn't understand. How are you ordering Hennessy and Coke? How are you?
It's not even a glass of wine. Like but then again, we have to remember convictions concerning those things are different. They are. I don't judge the way I once would have.
Right.
Now I'm beyond not even judging. It's not even a matter of, am I judging you? Because that still brings the connotation that I think something's wrong and we're running out of time. But now I'm just more, quite frankly, open that different people simply have different interpretations, and it is completely of their own personal conviction. The Bible actually teaches that. But I will say, and thank you, Alfie, for mentioning that sexy and cool preachers, male and female, are not functioning, and they're not. And some people are functioning to a degree until they get the attention. And Juanita Bynum, I mean, that was an example of people. She's almost like a not quite, but like a Lil' Kim story. Of people would attribute more power and anointing to her earlier ministries when it was in a more rough, organic place than when it became more Hollywood, and all that stuff. But I got to hit Scott's question before we go. Is there ministry piracy and recruitment at conventions? The answer is absolutely yes. As a matter of fact, that is a place where that type of networking goes on.
Absolutely.
Legitimately, because you got to remember, at a denominational convention, there are going to be deacons and associates and committee members or whoever that are looking for a minister. They may be an associate, and a pastor may have a recommendation, but sometimes they might be a senior pastor, and they're just saying, "Hey, what do you think?" There it goes. Oh man, we got to get back to Alfie.
What did he say?
We have Kojic Kush consumers. I said it. I know, Deacon. I know, Elder. It's the whole musician's pit. I see it when they start shouting slow all of a sudden. Them half-speed shouts. No, but
to get back what you're saying, absolutely. Well, and it's a place where you can almost get drafted.
People want to be drafted.
You get into these classes and you have some of these great names or some of these big, because you have to remember, when I was at the Full Gospel, most of them were there and they were all sitting in the front row. So these teachers are asking questions and it's your time to raise your hand. And you try to say your deepest thing, your deepest thought, and hopes that somebody catches you.
Right.
And somebody might.
Or you get a chance to do a sermonette.
Yes.
Or an inspirational moment, or do a workshop somewhere. But here's what I just believe personally. I think that can be a legitimate opportunity like in any other phase, but that it matters how it happens and the integrity you do it with. Are you recommended? Are there people who do love you or respect you or know of you, and they can recommend you and tell a brother, sister, hey, when they come to convention, watch out for them. I know of some mentors and peers that said, hey, I was at ABC convention, and brother so-and-so invited me to lunch and just asked me that God told me God placed them on my heart, and I also know of a story, a church in our area that won't go named, where the church was out of pastor, and the deacon got ready to go to the state convention and said, I'm going to find us a pastor.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to find us a pastor.
Oh yeah.
And came back with a pastor, and came back with a pastor. So I'm not going to say which one of the second's pastor that was, but they came back with a pastor. And it wasn't me because I went at the convention. But yeah, recruitment. Now, honestly, there's a difference between recruiting or feeling a sense of call, and there is some outright piracy. Ministry staff. And I think the piracy probably happens more with staff, musicians, worship leaders. Definitely.
Absolutely.
I'll offer you $100 more a week. I'll this, that, or the other. Here's a bigger platform, bigger church, whatever. Absolutely. And again, that's a place where it can legitimately happen, but a lot of times it illegitimately occurs in a way that's not integrous. So, you lose. Snooze, you lose. You take your members to the convention with you. You better watch them. Don't be taking your best organist to the convention.
Well, I mean, one of the things they do is, they say, send a couple tenors, send a couple, and so, you get to sing
me a couple
you
tenors.
get to sing with with some of these huge stars, but also when you do that, you don't know what's being pulled when they're in these rehearsals.
Oh, that's a good question, Scott. You're making us go over it. That's a good question. Do you have to guard program ideas and ministry goals from other pastors? Nigga, yes, I got to guard it from Jeff. No, I mean, now, honestly,
you do, because I will take it in a minute.
In a convention sense, but everybody borrows. Everybody borrows. Now, in a convention sense, honestly, it's expected for you to pick up what you're learning.
Absolutely.
And the people will present as if you should try this in your church.
Yeah, and a lot of times, a lot of times I heard them say, "Hey, take this home. Y'all can use this. Y'all can use this."
Yeah, we've all had the experience of speaking to people about particular things that might have been innovative. I think when it's in your own space and you see somebody clearly undercutting you in a way, but sometimes, I mean, I'm in the frame of mind that if God has something for you, it's going to flourish.
But here's the thing: stop trying to do New York ministry.
Thank you.
In Warren, Ohio. It's just, stop trying to go to these conventions and you come back here talking about you're about to create this,
compare, like you said, Pastor Jeff, the best of everyone ends up serving and singing, and we want to create that. That's not the local church.
Right.
Sunday to Sunday is not a convention or a conference with guests. And there are groups, worship groups. If that's what you do, you go around and you minister. There's always been community choirs and groups. That's fine. But to label that expectation on the local church that is working with the demographic that it has at its disposal. Listen, I don't care if J.J. Harrison was leading all the worship at Full Gospel. Mm-hmm. When you get back to church, Mabel is singing her song. Deacon
down at the cross.
Deacon is praying his prayer. So don't get beside yourself when you come home.
And please, stop trying to steal all these sermons.
And don't steal convention sermons.
Don't steal it's on video.
We all watched it.
We saw it.
I was going to steal it, and then I heard you take it first, and I'm disappointed now.
I'm going to change the name.
I'm going to change the name.
I'm going to change the title.
Right. Where's my thesaurus? Where the same words mean the same thing and start with the letter P instead of T. Preacher secrets. All right, y'all. It's time to go. This has been a great discussion, and we're going to follow up. Thank you. We're going to follow up with this discussion where we're going to talk specifically about denominations.
We're giving away free T-shirts next week.
See these T-shirts.
Make sure y'all join in. Get these.
Listen.
You ain't even got to.
Listen, I don't know what 9-year-old Indonesian boy created this. I don't know what child exploitation created these, but what's the normal price on these? What's the retail value?
$20. $20.
But because it's a convention,
you can get yours now.
The convention price is $15. No. Listen, this has been fun, man.
It has.
We're going to continue this discussion. It might be next week. Can I just go ahead and say it?
Go ahead.
PJ Morton's coming to town next Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And,
y'all know how Todd loved PJ Morton.
Love me some PJ.
Monday night?
We might do Monday night.
You might do a Monday night show.
We might do Monday night. Y'all ain't got nothing else. There ain't no Monday night football.
No Monday night football. No basketball is on. Y'all don't watch baseball. Y'all don't watch baseball.
Y'all know y'all don't watch no
baseball. So we might move the money because we don't want to miss the more weeks.
Right. We don't want to miss
y'all. We don't want you to miss us.
Right.
We don't want you to miss us. We feel like absent fathers.
So join in Monday night. Win yourself a T-shirt.
Yeah, come in and get your T-shirt. With this bright, look at this blue. Right. This is baptism blue.
Swimming pool blue.
Sin black. All right, y'all. Will y'all sign a T-shirt? Absolutely. I have Ethan sign it. We're going to have Monday night service, revival edition.
Yes, sir.
Remember when the preacher used to get up and say, I'm calling a revival?
Listen, and let me tell y'all, if you get called for the Monday night part of the revival, you are the garbage person. You are the garbage one.
You have no oil.
You are the one that let's just grab somebody.
You are the backup to the backup.
They could get nobody else.
We say it because we've been the Monday night preacher.
We've been the Monday night.
We've been the Monday
We've
night.
been the Monday night.
Especially during football season.
Yes,
Say
yes,
no.
yes, yes.
Say no.
And if it's a Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday,
Thursday.
you the one.
You the one.
You the one.
You know what? That's hilarious. Listen, Jeff, you just exposed the first half of my whole ministry. The Monday night garbage preacher. All right, y'all. Love y'all. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna be at convention too.
Oh, next week.
I'm gonna be with y'all, Alfie, Monday night. I'm gonna be with y'all because Pastor Simon is preaching Monday night.
Oh, okay. Well, we
gonna figure it out.
We'll figure it out. We'll let y'all know before the week is over.
We might even record something. Who knows? We'll do it. Hey, y'all.
Boy, you was a Monday night a long time ago. As long you ain't been a Monday night in a long time. You know you ain't been a Monday night in a long
new day just for you. Friday, Saturday. Just for you.
You done brunch.
Hey, y'all follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and wherever you listen to podcasts. We'll see y'all next week. Take care. Peace out.